This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
Oh. Hey guys, Keith Engel, TGI Sports Talk, Sunday stream of consciousness right here on the Northeast Streaming Sports Network. Hope you guys are having a great weekend. Quite a day of college football yesterday, except for the Oklahoma State Baylor game. There wasn't a lot of interesting games to be had, unfortunately. It was a bit of a letdown as far as games go. And at the end of the day, we don't have a lot of controversy for the Final Four playoff spots. We don't have any controversy, probably. Maybe a little bit in the way the rankings turn out as far as the order of the four teams. But as far as anybody getting left out, unless you are just super anti group of five conferences, then there's nothing to argue about the four teams that got in. Nothing. There would have been some argument, obviously, of some things that happened differently. But these games were really turned out to be kind of anticlimactic. And to me, it's a bit unfortunate, I guess. From a viewer standpoint, a fan standpoint, I would like to have seen a little bit more activity yesterday. We're going to talk about all of that. We're going to have Jim Biringer from the Last Word on Hockey, and our Last Word on College Football kind of guy too. He'll be in a few minutes. We'll talk college football. We'll talk hockey. Mark Mancini will join us in the 10:30 portion, and with him, we're going to talk some Ben Roethlisberger news. We're going to talk maybe a little bit of lockout. Pittsburgh winning big yesterday. And then we'll talk some others. Obviously, we're going to dive heavily into the college football. We're going to dive heavily into some Major League Baseball, some NFL news, as heavily as we can. Good morning, Ken Gifford. How are you? Good morning, Carlos. Don't forget, Carlos and I have a new show. It's a show I already had on Friday mornings, but we've retooled it. I won't say it's Carlos, because again, if it comes down to a lawsuit on this "Are You Serious" thing, this is all Carlos. Now I'm enjoying the interaction with Carlos on our Friday "Are You Serious" show. So I hope you guys can join us live, and if not, watch us later on. Jim will be on soon. Guess it's all set. It is all set, Kenny, except for the order of finish. To me, they're gonna rank these teams so that Georgia and Alabama don't play in the semifinal. That's how the rankings will come out in my mind. I think right now, Alabama, Michigan, Cincinnati, Georgia. That's what I think. If Michigan's number one, then it'll be Alabama, Georgia, Cincinnati. That's my guess. We'll see. 12 noon today, live on ESPN, just for you guys who are kind of interested. I was trying to find something here so I can play it later. Hang on 1 second. You guys talk amongst yourselves. Well, we'll talk about all that. We had a lot to chat about. The games yesterday, it's kind of unfortunate that the games went the way they went. I mean, and what a great game. I think the Oklahoma State Baylor game, great game. You can't ask for a better a game. If you'd like if you're tired of all the offensive fireworks in football, this was an old-fashioned smash mouth football game in my mind. The defenses were very good, especially Baylor's defense. I think, if I remember right, 5 series inside the 10-yard line for Oklahoma State, they don't come away with a touchdown. You're not going to win many games that way. And Baylor wins out on a great play in the fourth quarter where this much was the difference between winning and losing that ball game. A lot of fun. Georgia versus Alabama for the title. It's possible. We're going to get to see now. All you naysayers about Cincinnati, we're going to find out because they're going to get either Michigan or they're going to get Alabama. And Mark's going to be pounding his chest with Pittsburgh. Mark's going to be pounding his chest entirely because I don't think he got a game wrong yesterday. He picked Bama. He picked Pittsburgh. He picked Michigan. And I believe he picked Baylor. I got to look. I'd have to look back at his post. We'll check with him. But he had a good day yesterday. I was 0 for 4. Keith, 0 for 4 yesterday. Here's who I bet. And I was going to bet Oklahoma State and took them off my card. I bet Wake Forest. I bet Iowa. I bet Georgia. And I bet, what's the other game? 4 o'clock. I didn't bet Cincinnati. Who the heck else did I bet? Can't remember my fourth bet now. When you lose, that's what happens, Who did I bet at 4 o'clock yesterday? Oh, Appalachian State. Loved them yesterday. And foolishly, I don't bet the games Friday night. Both of them win that I liked. I love Texas San Antonio, and I talked myself out of it. I said, save my I get so many picks. And I saved them for Saturday and Sunday. Anyway, Baylor and Oklahoma State matched up. They were they matched up very, very well. And again, I think to me, it was kind of a throwback game. I enjoyed watching it. I mean, I don't want to watch. I felt bad for the kid from Sanders, the quarterback for Oklahoma State, throwing 4 picks in the biggest game of his career, and it's unfortunate. And there you go. Also, 4 picks from Spencer Sanders did not help Oklahoma State win it all. But look at 2 good football teams. Came down to 1 play. All that other stuff matters. The 4 interceptions, everything matters. But at the end of the day, it comes down to 1 play and about 3 inches for that. Carlos said, I told you that the middle defense was solid. You were right, Carlos. I did pick San Diego State. I didn't bet the game. They got killed yesterday. My picks were atrocious. Even the games I didn't bet. I should have bet Cincinnati. Didn't. Who else I have? But I loved Utah on Friday night. I loved Texas San Antonio, and I didn't bet either one of them. I bet on a good streak. My bankroll is going to start shrinking now. But we're still in the plus column. It was definitely the best game of the day, Alan. It's again, it's a bit unfortunate. I will say the Alabama, a huge letdown. The biggest loser in this whole thing, and again, they're going to be in the playoff, but the bigger loser in this thing is Georgia. Kirby Smart still can't get over the hump. Can't beat Alabama. Bryce Young has won the Heisman in my mind. That's all done. So they're the big loser today. The big news, and we're going to bring Jim Biringer in here in a second. Really, at the end of the day, we don't have controversy, unless you're, I don't know. I don't know how you can have any controversy unless you can somehow try to rationalize Ohio State or Notre Dame belongs in over Cincinnati. I don't know how you do it. You don't. Now it'll come down to how they rank them. And with that, let's bring in Jim Biringer for the last word on hockey. Good morning, Jim. How are you?
Hey, good. How are you? How you doing today?
I'm doing great. Tired after a long day of college football yesterday, and a bit anticlimactic the way some of the games played out. But you know what? Still championship Saturday, and we've got some clarification. I don't think there'll be any real surprises today as far as who gets in when they're released at noon. So it'll be interesting how they rank them. I mean, my opinion is they'll rank them so that Georgia and Alabama don't play in the semis. That'd be my guess.
Yeah, I think that's the consensus is they're not going to make sure they play in the semis. I mean, there's an interesting debate to be made that Michigan or Alabama could be number 1. And if, say, Michigan does go to number 1, there's a good case, legitimate case, Cincinnati could move to 3 after the beating Georgia got. So, You
The
know,
only reason I think that could be, except I don't think they want Alabama and Georgia to match up in the semifinal. And if Alabama's number one, well, there you go. Cincinnati could be 3 if they rank Michigan number 1, right?
yeah,
I guess
yeah,
so.
exactly.
That'd be the deal. I don't look at. You can flip a coin for me for Michigan and Alabama being number 1. What do you think?
Personally, I think Alabama's going to go to 1, and then it's Michigan. Yeah, just the throttling, the beating they gave Georgia, the consensus number 1 team in the nation for the whole year, and they just put a whooping on them. And
good point brought up as we're talking about the rankings. Alan says, talks about the can't remember the wide receiver's name.
Mechie.
Yeah, he's one of their top players, and if the committee can decide who gets in and gets out because coaches don't play, or are out, like we were talking about with Notre Dame up until they had a coach. Can this possibly affect the fact that Notre Dame may not be ranked number 1 with one of their better players not going to be able to play?
It's not going to matter. Bryce Young is still their quarterback, and they can still figure out a way to score points even without their best players. We saw it last year when Waddle wasn't playing. Other guys stepped up, like Devontae Smith, Jamison Williams stepped up yesterday for Alabama.
Yeah.
Their defense is playing. That was the best game Alabama played all year, and they needed to when it mattered most. And give credit to Nick Saban to have Alabama play their best game. And look, Michigan just blew out Iowa. That wasn't a big deal. The shocker was the start of the day, Baylor beats Oklahoma State. It was a really good game. Oklahoma State charged in the second half, and they just came up inches short from a playoff spot. And then Cincinnati takes care of business against Houston. It was a struggle at first, but Houston is a good team. They won 11 straight. They're in the championship game for a reason. They make some nice adjustments. The offense needs to play a little bit better. Defense stepped up really, really well and got the interception and turnovers and the stops. I think the fourth quarter, I thought that should have been a fumble touchdown, but that's just me. But you know what? It's going to be Cincinnati, Alabama, Michigan, and Georgia in the playoffs. So it's not like it's just see where they rank them, really.
I mean, Georgia comes away the big loser yesterday, and Alabama the big winner because, again, Georgia's not a loser in the sense that they're in the playoff no matter what, but they still can't win that SEC championship, and Kirby Smart can't get over the hump against Alabama. And I don't know that Alabama's a better team. I just don't. Georgia just seemed tight and were not themselves yesterday, especially on defense early in the game.
Yeah, they definitely were tight for sure. Look, Mark said it. He said that Bama is going to win, and give credit to him. And you got to get the monkey off your shoulder for sure. But this is a wake up call because their schedule wasn't the greatest. And some of their big wins, like this is what I'm saying. Like you can look at it if you were in the room with them. There's a really good debate to be made that Michigan can be number 1 because of their schedule on who they beat. And the same thing, that's what I'm saying. Like if you look at quality wins and you take everything into account, say we play the scenario out that Michigan's number 1. Well, there's a good case that Cincinnati can go to number 3 because of their wins. They have a quality win over a number 5 Notre Dame team. Who's Georgia's best win against? Clemson? That's why if that scenario plays out, there's where the debate could come in on rankings, but it really doesn't matter at this point.
No, it doesn't. And again, I think they're going to manipulate it so that, Georgia and Alabama don't play in the semis. I think that's what will happen. And probably the worst matchup for Cincinnati, from my standpoint, is probably Alabama.
Yeah, we'll see. They got a month to prepare. So, you know what? Hey, they're there. That's all that really matters.
That's a great point. And actually, before I go there, I want to get a couple of comments up so we can chat about this a little. It's interesting. Carlos got a couple of hockey things. We'll get on that after we get through here. But he mentions the fact that Bama's got about 10 receivers, so it's probably not a big deal. He's probably right there. What I find interesting, I believe he's commenting on Cincinnati, who he's not been a big fan of all year. So they played up to their competition. And this is the most interesting. He's not a big fan of Ritter, and I think Ritter is a very good quarterback. Do I think he can be a starting quarterback in the NFL? I don't know. But he can be a backup in that league for a while. He'll make a team. He also talks about
he'll definitely make a team for sure.
Yeah, he also talks about the Georgia. I don't think Stetton is really an NFL prospect anyway, so no. I don't think his his draft status is not going to get hurt that much. And he talks about Bryce Young. I believe with Bryce Young's performance yesterday and that drive against Auburn, I think it's a foregone conclusion now that Bryce Young is the Heisman Trophy winner.
I agree. I think Bryce Young is the Heisman Trophy winner for sure. What he did yesterday and then the drive against Auburn, for sure he's the Heisman Trophy winner. Look, the thing with Cincinnati is, you know what, their defense plays well. They have a top 10 defense in the nation. And if they get you in passing situations, in obvious passing situations, they can blitz you and you're going to make your life miserable. Now look, everybody's going to say if they lose and everything, they don't deserve to be there. Well, you know what? They're 13-0. They deserve to be there. And now we're going to see it. And you know what? You give it a month because they have a month to prepare for one game against the top team in the nation. I give Luke Fickell and Cincinnati a fighter's chance in that game.
I think they can be competitive for sure. I'm not going to sit here and say right now they're going to beat whoever they play.
No,
but one thing you got to take into consideration is that month you have to prepare. Well, it's not quite a month, I guess. It's 3 weeks, whatever. When are their semis? Are they on New Year's?
Oh, they're New Year's Eve, so they're like
New Year's Eve, right?
Yeah,
right.
So they're 3 weeks.
So that sometimes in the past, right? That time off has not served some teams well, because they're used to playing every week and it changes your routine, and you'll see some ugly play, at least early in games, because of that, time off.
Yeah.
So
we'll see what happens there, but it's going to be interesting, and it's good to see a team like Cincinnati get in because they deserve to be there. And the excuse line has run out, because if they take them out, then I have no idea what they're thinking, because Cincinnati just did what they were supposed to do, and they just won really well.
God, Carlos is agreeing with me way too often, Carlos.
Yeah,
we got to start disagreeing here, because we got a show on Fridays. We got to be more combative here. Just kidding. Before we move on, Rick has got to get his comment in. Big Georgia Bulldog fan. I'm sure he's disappointed that Kirby Smart could not get this team over the top. He felt they blitzed off and left their D-backs in single coverage against some great whiteouts, and I can't argue with that.
No, I can't argue with that either.
Their defensive game plan, especially early, was not, well, at any point, I don't think was good yesterday. What else? Anything else you take away from yesterday? I mean, there's no controversy left. I guess one thing we can talk about is the Notre Dame hire. I think they made a brilliant move in hiring Marcus Freeman. On the Notre Dame groups I kind of belong to, they seem to be, the consensus seems they're very, very happy. If you saw the video on Twitter when they announced, I thought it was awesome the way they did that. As one of the assistant coaches was, pumping up the team about, some other things. I didn't pay much attention to what he was saying, but then at the very end he goes, and now I want to introduce our new coach. And the way the team went crazy, I think speaks volumes to this hire.
Well, that's a big thing for them, because I like the fact that they kept their guy around and they didn't, look outside the system. And this is a guy that players are going to want to play for. They keep everybody intact, and it's not going to affect where they play and who they play going forward. And now that they have Freeman there, it's going to be, Notre Dame will be fine. And like I said, the guys want to play for him, and you could just see the excitement in the players' faces when they saw Freeman was sticking around, because he was a coveted guy outside of Notre Dame. A lot of people were looking at him because of for coaching openings, especially other teams around there.
Well, I think Carlos has also got a point here that I think Kelly thought he was going to bring a lot of guys with him. And from what I can see, I don't think any of his assistants are following him to LSU, which might speak volumes about what they think of Coach Kelly. I'm not sure what to make of that.
I think they're all staying at Notre Dame. They feel they have a job to complete there, and Brian Kelly didn't complete the job. So one thing I got to find interesting is, before we switch over, I was reading reports that Miami's interested in Mario Cristobal. Are you serious? This is the same Mario Cristobal that got blown out twice by Utah. I don't think that's a great fit. I think Manny Diaz should get another year, especially with Van Dyke, the way he's been playing. I think give it a year with that offense. I think that and Van Dyke under center. and give Manny Diaz one more year there to see if he can really turn it around, because I think they have a good quarterback in Van Dyke, and don't bring a guy like Cristobal in, because you could clearly see in the biggest games, the Oregon team wasn't that great anyway, and they were ranked way too high, but I don't think that's a good fit there.
I kind of agree. I mean, other than the fact that he's alumni, I don't see the attraction. And the Manny's biggest problem is going to be, I think he should get another year myself. They've got a lot invested in Manny Diaz, and I think giving him another year is the right thing, especially as you said, now they've got a quarterback. And the defense is playing better. That's been a big knock. I mean, one of the reasons they've been so bad the last couple of years is their defense, which is Manny's specialty, hasn't been good. His biggest problem is going to be the fact that he's going to have a new AD coming in there, and he's liable to want his own guy. So it's going to be iffy for him.
Yeah.
Before we switch over, let's just see if there's any anything else we want to touch on here. Kenny Gifford was talking about changing the interference call. I mean, there are way too many calls, but
they didn't call that many yesterday, to be honest, in the games I was watching.
I mean, the one thing I like about the interference call in college, against the one in the NFL is I like the fact that it's only a 15-yard penalty, because NFL games too often are decided with guys just, getting the ball on the 1 yard line because quarterback threw the ball for grabs, underthrows it, and the defensive back just runs into a wide receiver. It happens all the time. I guess we'll touch on this before we go away. Oklahoma looks to be finalizing a deal with Brent Venables, who, by all accounts, has had many offers the last few years, but has been very picky about where he's going to go. And now he's going to get one of the best jobs in college football from what it looks like. And I think it's a good hire by Oklahoma.
I like the hire. I like what Brent Venables done. So we'll see. I mean, only a few more years left in the Big 12 for them, and the Big 12 is going to get two good teams in Cincinnati and Houston. And the American, they were talking yesterday, they're going to get some solid teams too. So you know what? Hey, good luck when you move over to the SEC, because the grass is not always greener on the other side.
One last thing, I guess. Carlos is again correct. Notre Dame has got to get into a conference, or they're going to be continue to have this problem where they're sitting home where other people are still building their resume, and it's not a good position to be in.
Nope. I agree with that, Carlos. As much as we disagree on a bunch of other things, I agree with that for sure.
Yeah, agreed. So we'll jump back to some of this. We can revisit some of this college stuff later once we get through with Jim, and we'll switch over to our hockey conversation. So let's chat a little bit. Actually, let me get my Jim Biringer banner up here. What's been going on? I've been so wrapped up in college football, I haven't even dove into hockey too much this week. What's your takeaway from this week? What should we know about what's happened in this past week since we chatted about hockey?
So, north of the border, obviously a lot of things going on. Toronto Maple Leafs are on fire. They continue to win. They're playing some of their best hockey right now. As I discussed with the guys yesterday, Jack Campbell's been on fire for them. In between the pipes, they found a goaltender. They just got to figure out, when Mrazek comes back, if, Campbell can, not shoulder the load, but they're going to have to figure out time to get him in. The Maple Leafs have bought into the system, playing defense for Keefe, playing in front of Campbell. They believe in the system that they have, so that's something to keep an eye on. Obviously, since last we talked, the Canadians have decided to fire everybody. Yeah. Mark Bergevin's out, the PR guy, their scouting guy, everybody's out. And they bring in a guy like Jeff Gordon, obvious former Ranger general manager, to be the executive vice president of hockey ops. They're going to look to hire a general manager. And what better guy to have it than a guy like Gordon, who's orchestrated and constructed 2 original 6 teams in the Boston Bruins, and look what the New York Rangers are doing in the year that they were supposed to be taking the next step anyway. I always like to throw that in because this was the next step for them, despite what happened. And so the Rangers are continuing to play well. We got to watch the injury for Shesterkin, but it looks like he'll just be out for a week. So that isn't too bad with Georgiev in between the pipes, and they bring up Huska from the AHL. Florida continues to play well. Calgary's just on, like, no pun intended, but they are on fire, playing so well in the Pacific Division. Just a lot of good hockey, and the issue is now and we'll stay in New York, but I think it is time to push the panic button in on Long Island because they're now winless. Well, they've lost 10 straight, and they haven't won in the new building yet, and they have to figure out issues there.
Well, I'll have to ask before Carlos posted, is that panic button actually firing Barry Trotz and moving on?
The issue is Lou Lamoriello isn't above it, but the issue is Lamoriello and Trotz are always on the same wavelength. It's the issue of Lamoriello building a team, and this is what happened towards the end of his tenure with the Devils. Is he thought they were just good enough with the guys that they had, and never being able to bring in to upgrade the team from the outside. He always believed what they had, and they would just adjust with one or two pieces, like the Chara thing. He's playing way too many minutes. Parisi hasn't worked out. The contracts to Palmieri have not worked out. They're missing offense. It starts with Eberle, and they're missing a guy in Toronto right now in Tavares. They can't score to save their life, and that's the problem with the New York Islanders.
And he's thinking Chara was a terrible move.
Yep. It was. And another thing with the Islanders is like you look at some of the guys there that Barzal can't do it by himself. Yes, they've had injuries on the back end. Yes, they dealt with the COVID situation. Should the league stepped up sooner? Yes, I agree they should have. But you know what? Here's the thing. They have to start playing Islanders hockey, and they just don't have the personnel to do it. And they're missing Nick Leddy, they're missing Devon Taves, they're missing Eberle, they're missing guys that made this team play better under Trotz. And right now, they just don't have it. So look for the Islanders to make some moves down the stretch.
And I'll put up one note because I know Rick likes to talk about hockey. The Rangers looking good, but still in third place. I think technically they're in second place in that division because they've with the points. Yeah, they're 2 points ahead of the Hurricanes. But you know what? Again, this is the Eastern Conference is going to be very, very tough this year. And the Rangers are playing some great hockey. I think once we get more into, again, very early to talk about it, but the Rangers are going to be in play. I want to play a little game with you today, Jim. And
all right.
I'm going to give you like 5 categories.
Okay.
And I would just give me your first thoughts on the teams that fit into these categories.
Okay.
First category is can take the cup. What's the first couple teams that pop into your head?
Can take the cup. Calgary, Washington, Carolina, Toronto, if they continue playing like this. And I'll throw Vegas in there, especially when they get Jack Eichel back.
Okay, and on the verge, just off that category, they're just on the verge of joining that category. Who would you put in that group?
The Rangers, the Panthers. I'll put Colorado in there because they're getting healthier. I'll put Minnesota in there. I think they still need to prove something a little bit more in the playoffs. Same with the Florida Panthers. Tampa's taking a little bit of a step back. I'll put them in this category because they're still are the champs, so I still have to recognize them and what they're doing without key players. So I like those teams in there as well. And another team that I like in there is, you know what? I want to put. Oh man, I really want to put a team like St. Louis in that category too because they're starting to find their groove from 2019 again.
Well, that's very interesting because the next category I had were former champs that are ready to rebound.
Yeah, so St. Louis is definitely in the top category for sure. Former champs ready to rebound. Edmonton is definitely a former champ. I think they're finally turning the page again. It has to be done in April. Still not sold on what they can do now. Another former champ, Anaheim. I think the way they've been playing this year. I like what they've been doing. Troy Terry. I mean, Getzlaf's hurt, but Gibson is still there. The young pieces are coming along. Dallas is another team in that category as well that are rebounding nicely. They're playing really, really well, and Pittsburgh has rebounded. They're still around. They're still sticking around. Same with Detroit. Detroit's a young team, and they're playing really well with Lucas Raymond, Moritz Seider. San Jose's playing really well. San Jose, but they haven't won a cup. But San Jose, I'm really impressed what they're doing this year. Earlier in the year, they had a COVID situation, and they were missing guys, and they were still winning. Goaltending, it's funny. Everybody knocks James Reimer, but he's played really well in San Jose. Aiden Hills looked really good as well. Those guys are playing well, and they don't have an Evander Kane problem. They let the distraction go and are playing really well. So, and back to Detroit, but like I said, Raymond, Sider, the guy that they traded for, Nedeljkovic, he's been playing well between the pipes. So, there's a lot of good teams out there right now.
Well, let's move to another category. I got two left. The next one is who's deluding themselves into thinking they're still in contention and really are not.
I mean, I don't want to say the Islanders, but I'm going to say the Islanders because they need to start turning it around in the tough Metro division because they're starting to realize that they're out of it. The Flyers are clearly they're just not the same team. I think Alain Vigneault's worn out his welcome there. The Devils are still sticking around, but I just don't see them doing anything in the East. Here's the issue: like Boston's just on the verge, but I just don't see them being a playoff team in the East because there's so many good teams. They're still sticking around, but I'm just not sure they get over the hump.
And who's not even delusional? Who's just sitting around waiting for the draft?
Ottawa, Montreal.
Montreal's it's a shame that they've dropped so fast after last year's.
Vancouver, Arizona, Chicago, teams like that are waiting around for the draft. But the thing is with Montreal is if you look at the history over the last two seasons, I tell this to everybody, it's like this team wasn't a playoff team the last 2 years. They got backed in twice. They got lucky in the first time because the return to playoff with 24 teams. And last year, if Calgary was able to find a way to win games towards the end of the season, Montreal wouldn't have been in the playoffs and had a chance to make a run like that. And then they did, and if Toronto could have found their game in Game 5, this series, they would have been out of there. So, look, they got lucky, but this is the team everybody expected them to be. So,
yeah, I agree. And I guess lastly, the Seattle Kraken are playing, mediocre. They're hanging
around.
Good. Are they a team that can make any kind of run at the playoffs, or is this a team that's just waiting around for the draft as well?
They're playing a lot better than they did. They're coming. I said it yesterday. I'll do it again today. I'll pat myself on the back. They're coming from the depths of the ocean to rise up the standings. So, yeah, the Kraken. So, the goaltending has been a lot better. At the beginning of the year, it wasn't great with Grubauer and Drieger. Drieger's definitely. I'll get to that in a second. Drieger. Drieger's played a lot better. Eberle's starting to put the puck in the net. Yanni Gourde's putting the puck in the net. A lot of guys are playing really, really well right now for Seattle. Again, I'm not sold on their head coach, but you know what? It's the first year. You can't expect everybody to be Vegas. So, and they drafted their team way differently, and I still disagree with some of their moves that they did there. But you know what? On a scale of 1 to 10, I'll put it at a 5 right now. I'm not gonna say it's poor. I'm not gonna say it's great, but good. I think it's right in the middle. I mean, I think it's their expansion team. And you know what? The Pacific is a lot better than everybody thought it was going to be because no one expected the Flames to do this.
Right.
Everybody expected it to be Edmonton, Vegas, and everybody else. No one expected Anaheim to be this good or, Calgary, LA. They didn't expect that. So this is why it makes the division a lot tougher than expected.
Yeah, and would you agree the East is that much better than the West or not?
I think the East is a little bit better, but I think the Metro is the best division in all of hockey because of just every night the games just matter and it's so brutal and physical. I mean, you could say the same thing about the Central, but I think that the toughest division is the Metro division in the Eastern Conference.
What else, Jim? Should we look for this coming week in the NHL? Now, COVID. And I guess we can tie this into this question. COVID seems to have affected the NHL more than any of the other professional leagues up till now. I mean, do you see that continue to be a problem or not? And what else should we look for as we head into the next week or so?
I keep an eye on COVID. I've also, because of just with some teams shutting down, Carolina's going through it. St. Louis is getting some COVID issues as well. So the more this stuff ramps up, the more there's going to be issue of teams maybe shutting down again, and which leads to, the possibility of the Olympics not happening for the NHLers. Personally, I don't think they should go. I think it's a bad time. Everything's going around. So I think that's something, and there's the optimism of going has been less and less. It sounds like from everything I've heard that most likely they're not going to be going, because it's just the restrictions are starting to pile up again with the NHL players here. They're going backwards with the protocols instead of forwards. So and they have to watch it because of all the travel that they're doing. Something to watch as we hit the quarter. Well, some teams haven't even hit the quarter mark. Most teams have. The Islanders have not, because they have to make up some games. But, this is a big week for a bunch of teams like the Devils, for instance. They had been playing well, and then they come back a little bit. And now they got a nice stretch of games here where they have winnable games to get themselves back into playoff contention. They have to start playing a lot better than they have been doing. For me, I think like a team to keep an eye on is continue to watch is Toronto. Let's see if they continue to buy into their system. Florida, how long can they continue to be the comeback Cats? And, this 3 times this season, they've come back from 3 or more goals. So that's something to keep an eye on as well. I mean, I'll have my new edition of Power Rankings come out this week as well. So you'll see where my teams rank amongst everything. I want to see
if you get it to me so I can share it to TGI Sports Talk too.
I will for sure. I want to check. I want to see, can San Jose keep this thing going, because they came back to earth a little bit and then they continue to play better. So, and the teams that are having injury problems, like a Vegas, can they continue to climb up the standings? Is a team like Anaheim for real? Minnesota for real? I think they are, just because they're top the Central Division. Is Winnipeg finally going to get back on the winning ways after they beat the Devils? So
the East and Metro have historic. Well, that's true, I guess. I mean, they're longer entrenched fan bases for sure, but I don't know how much better some of them are sometimes.
I think the West sometimes is a little bit better with teams. I think lately it's been the East, but sometimes the West has been a little bit better especially when you see them playing a Stanley Cup final.
Rick's got a question. My favorite, don't be surprised if, I don't know if it fits, but if you can give us a don't be surprised if, what happens this week? A little harder this.
Yeah, it's a little harder because of, games and stuff. I say don't be surprised if you see the Tampa Bay Lightning start to make their way back up the standing a little bit, even with the injuries that they have. I just like the way this Lightning team is built. So don't be surprised if they figure out a way to still be there towards the end.
Yeah, I'm interested to see if some of these teams that have been on a roll, like the Red Wings and the Rangers and the Wild and the Stars, can continue that momentum. In Calgary, to a certain extent as well, can continue that momentum as we're past the quarter mark now. So start to see how it goes as we head towards the halfway mark. So
exactly.
Anyway, Jim, thanks for coming in. Hopefully we can chat with you a little bit Wednesday. We'll talk more about college football on Wednesday night if you're available. We'll certainly do some of that.
Absolutely, for sure.
And we'll have to dissect the rankings and hopefully some coaching hires and see what else is going on in the world of college football. So we'll have time to dig in. We'll have time now the next few weeks to dive into some, individual topics with a little bit more meat to it, I think. So
absolutely, for sure. I can't wait for Wednesday.
Great. You have a great Sunday, and we'll talk to you soon.
You have a great Sunday too. Thanks for everything, and always a pleasure joining you to talk some hockey and college football on a Sunday morning.
Great to have you. Thanks, Jim.
All right, you too. Bye.
The wonderful Jim Biringer from The Last Word on Hockey. Check out his stuff, guys. I'll be posting. I've asked Jim to make sure he gives me the links. I know sometimes he shares it to the page. I don't get the notifications, and then they don't get there. So I've asked him to at least give me a little. Give me a note that they're there, and I need to go get them posted so that we don't have to wonder. So let's catch up again. Let's back up on the college football. I know I missed a few comments, so I'm going to go back. I'm going to try to go back here and get them. Again, not much. I don't know. Yeah, I'm going to go through the games a little bit. I'll go back to the comments in a second. I just want to review the rest of the games so we don't give anybody short thrift. Oregon, Utah on Friday night. No big surprise there. That was to be expected in my mind. And Utah gets their first Pac-10 or Pac-12 championship, excuse me, because they're playing great football. They're a really good football team. Kyle Whittingham is a really, really good football coach, and I'm wondering how long he'll be at Utah. You may see him his name start cropping up for some of these jobs, because I still don't think there's enough good coaches to fill some of the jobs the jobs are filling up. That's something we'll dive into Wednesday night, because most of the big jobs are going to be full by then. Texas San Antonio finishes a great season. They didn't finish undefeated, but they did win the USA Conference USA championship game against Western Kentucky. Great job by them. Alabama, Georgia, we talked about. Again, sad to see Kirby Smart not be able to get over the hump. Big story. Michigan, how I thought 11.5 points was enough to bet this game. I have no idea. It was a last-second decision and a stupid one. But Michigan just dominates 42-3. Don't be surprised if Michigan is number 1, which allows Cincinnati to move up to number 3, by the way. And no, actually, it wouldn't happen, would it? It would be Georgia number 3. It's going to be hard for Cincinnati, I think, to get to that 3 spot. They do not want Alabama to play again. But something to think about. Again, congratulations to Jim Harbaugh, on the verge of getting fired last year, restructures his contract, takes half the money he was getting, and wins Michigan's first Big Ten championship in 17 years, if you can believe that. And in the history of football, at least in my lifetime of watching football, who would have thought Michigan would go 17 years without a Big Ten title? I mean, it was Michigan and Ohio State almost every year when I was a kid. Cincinnati, really, I think, pretty handily, especially after the first half. I mean, they just dominated the second half against Houston. I think they solidified their ranking here, and anybody who's got an argument that they don't belong, I don't understand it. And I know there are some people that'll be in on the show, and they may show up this morning, that are going to disagree with this. And I'll check the comments here in a second, as I said, and we'll dive into your comments and talk about that. Baylor, great. I can't say enough. Well coached. Whether their coach sticks around is going to be, I think he's building something there, and I think he's going to stay. But a really fun game, probably the best game of the day, as we talked about earlier. Pittsburgh, Wake Forest, very disappointing finish for Wake Forest, and Sam Hartman would just probably one of his worst games, maybe of his Wake Forest career. You know, they hung tough early on. First quarter was 35 points got scored, guys. But the Wake Forest defense was non-existent, and actually they played one of their better games, I think, the Wake Forest defense. Pickett played well. But I think that the defense was okay without the turnovers from Hartman. So we'll talk Wednesday night to Larry Sorensen about that, and where Pittsburgh ends up in the bowl seedings, as we'll see later today, if it's not already been announced. Utah State destroys San Diego State. Carlos was very anxious to let everybody know that I picked San Diego State. I actually tried to give that game the short thrift, I think, Friday when Carlos and I were talking about it. But look, at Mountain West is a good league. It's a fun league. And Utah State is one of those sneaky teams, man. You don't hear much about Utah State, but they always seem to have a competitive football team, at least in conference. Appalachian State gets beat by Louisiana, who finishes a 12-1 season. They're going to get a pretty good bowl game, I'm going to think. I really liked Appalachian State because of Napier leaving to take the Florida job, but they finished up. They took care of business. Northern Illinois rolls over Kent State. And for some reason, a postponed USC-California game gets played yesterday. California beats USC 24-14. Not sure why that game was even played. So let's see what I missed here. We still got a few minutes we can spend here on college. Let me just make sure we got through all these. I know early on there was still some questions coming up when we jumped to college. Let's see if I can comment about Bryce Young. You need to blitz him. He's a lot. The problem is you blitz him, you leave as Rick had said earlier, you blitz him, and he's got a gazillion guys who can run. Guys, just run by guys. It's hard to play these wide receivers man to man. I don't know if he's like Lamar Jackson, to be honest with you. I mean, I don't know who I'd compare him with. I don't think he'd be Lamar Jackson, though, Alan. I don't think that'll happen, as we said. Let's see, I missed a couple. Rick did talk about the blitz, and I guess that's what prompted that. That's what beat them, actually. Alan brought up Cincinnati is going to the Big 12, so we may see more of them down the road. Listen, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. That's one of the reasons I thought Luke Fickell would stay at Cincinnati, to see through what he's built here and get them into the Big 12 and see how they compete there. I think they'll be very competitive. The league is going to be down a notch. It's still going to be a Power 5 conference, going to be down a notch without Oklahoma and Texas, obviously, but still some really good football teams there in Oklahoma State, Baylor, Iowa State's resurgence. Matt Campbell leaves, that could certainly change. TCU's fortunes could change as well. So Carlos had talked about the month to recuperate. You got a month to recuperate or get lazy, or both, I guess. That, this is the one thing with the bowl games that's always been problematic as far as picking winners. Because of that time off, and some teams do well with that preparation, and some just don't. We talked about that. Coaches already have relationship with these coaches, and great move by the AD. We're talking about Marcus Freeman. I was trying to find the video to play, guys, and I couldn't pull it up quick enough because I'd forgotten earlier. But it's just tremendous. If you haven't seen it, there was a Twitter post. I think I shared it. I did share it, actually, on the TGI Sports Talk page. Go there, watch the video. I probably could have gone there quick, couldn't I? That's all right. Watch the video. It's just a lot of fun, and it's what college football should be all about. And it speaks to, I think, what those players think of Marcus Freeman. And I think Notre Dame is going to be in good hands, not having seen him coach a game yet, obviously. Gosh. So Kenny says they can continue. Look at, first of all, I don't think the ACC is that weak. I think the ACC has gotten more balanced. And so there are some teams that are going to take a leap there. Clemson's going to bounce back, right? BC, I think, is on the verge of having a good team. Syracuse is going to get better if they hang on to Dino Babers. Florida State can't stay this bad forever. Miami will rebound. We're going to do a show shortly about the travails of those Florida teams. But I don't know that Notre Dame can't continue to stay without a conference and not be part of this championship Saturday. That's where the key comes in, Kenny. They're sitting home while the rest of the teams are still building their resume. And all 13 members of that committee are watching every one of those games together yesterday for the first time and making their comments for all to hear. And there are none about Notre Dame because they're sitting home. And yes, they can get back to having a tough schedule, because I agree. People talk about the soft schedule for Notre Dame, but the teams are down this year. In other years, this schedule will be a very, very, very representative schedule. And we talked about that. Miami already had an opportunity to make a move. Well, Lane Kiffin's the guy that you kept hearing. I know a lot of you guys don't like Lane Kiffin. I like Lane Kiffin a lot. I know Kenny doesn't like him. I don't know that Carlos likes him that much. I like Lane Kiffin, and I think he'd be a great move for the University of Miami, but he just signed an extension, which is about as good as, it doesn't mean anything. They can't hold these coaches. That's going to be a topic too, by the way. Something's got to happen in the NCAA, guys, where they start holding these coaches accountable. I mean, these schools make enough money where they can pay these huge buyouts and just get the coaches that they want. And there's no repercussions for anybody. And it causes, it's not fair to the kids. It's not fair to the fan bases. You got a contract in the real world. You can't just walk away from it. They're set to. I think Miami is set to kind of start building. I like the quarterback choice, and Manny's still up in the air. Jeff Leedy as offensive coordinator, possible too. You're talking about Oklahoma, I think, right, Alan? I think Venable's a done deal, though. I really do. I'm not sure, Carlos, why you think Oklahoma is a tough place to go. I mean, well, it's tough in the fact that they're going to the SEC now, and that's probably why Lincoln Kennedy jumped in the first place, because he's afraid to go there and try to. He can't. He's got an easier path to the playoff from the Pac-12 than from the SEC, no matter how many teams they put in there. Oh, I didn't see this, Amanda. Would have got this up for Jim. I know it always makes him smile, but I know that Amanda is very happy for Jim in Cincinnati getting in the train, getting in the playoff. Good point there from Carlos about Texas A&M. Look at Texas A&M. Jimbo Fisher is starting to remind me of Ed Orgeron. One fluke national championship with a great quarterback, great college quarterback, not a great quarterback necessarily in the pros in Jameis Winston, but he had a unique team, made a bunch of money, and has really not produced after that. Kenny's back to Notre Dame. They need to stay as an independent. They don't do any and do not need any conference. They just, they can't play someone that week. I don't believe they'll be allowed to schedule a game that week. Again, the USC California game was a unique situation. And who are you going to play that matters that week when everybody else is playing, championship games against the two best teams in a conference? It's just Notre Dame's not going to be able to just sit out there and suck up all that money forever. It's going to cost them. It already has cost them. Right? I mean, look at Brian Kelly didn't leave for money. Kenny probably thinks he left for money. Brian Kelly left because he thinks he's got a better chance to win in the SEC and at LSU because he won't be held to the same academic restrictions in recruiting, even though Notre Dame's lowered them. And I'm not saying they should. Don't get me wrong. They're one of the few schools in the country where you still got real student athletes, or at least a majority of them. But that's why Brian Kelly left. He left because he wants to win. Notre Dame's never going to be the perennial contender that they've been in the past because these other teams have lowered the academic standards to the point where, if a kid goes to school, he's meeting them, goes to class, he's meeting them. All right. Now we got to get down here past some of these hockey things, I think. I didn't put this up for Jim to see, but it is a little funny, Kenny, the roller skate conversation. They should be on roller skates. And then I know that Jim, I think Rick had a comment. They can prove the real athletes, right, Kenny? Hockey players are great athletes. They really are. Let me get back to college football here so we can wrap it up. Here we go. Utah's deeper because their team has older guys, juniors and seniors. Well, much like BYU, I mean, there's a lot of the Mormon population and a lot of the teams that part of the country, the players get, they often go off on missionary work. And, I know BYU's graduated guys who are in their mid to late 20s in basketball and football. And I think Utah's got the same kind of situation. And I think Kyle Whittingham is not long for that organization. He is just one heck of a football coach. And Harbaugh finally got to the top. I got to take my hat. He's not my favorite guy, but he's done a pretty good job. Rick's got Georgia dropping to 4. I think they probably will again, depending on where Alabama is, Rick. I think they'll be 3 if Alabama's 1. Just my opinion. We'll see at noontime. Michigan, Alabama, Miami. That one works for me too. No, I don't think the committee wants an SEC semifinal. I don't think so. But that still allows for an SEC final, Kenny. Yeah, I think Hartman's still got 2 years of eligibility. Don't forget, Rick. And I think this game will probably solidify the fact that he'll come back for at least another year, because this game will hurt his draft standpoints for sure. COVID makeover, yes. One can hope they punish Georgia and slide it. No, I don't think that'll happen. It's a good thought, Kenny, but that won't happen. Now, again, if Notre Dame had played in the conference final yesterday, guess what? It's entirely possible that could have happened. Army-Navy preview, we'll certainly dive into that Wednesday night, Alan, for sure. To me, and I know Rick Sherlock and probably most of you will agree, this is my favorite college football weekend of the year next week. This one we just had was my second favorite. But I like the fact that the NCAA still gives Army-Navy that standalone weekend. No matter how good or bad these teams are, nobody cares. It's not about that. And by the way, Army's a really good football team, and Army will probably be a decent favorite, and we'll certainly talk more about that on Wednesday night. Jeff Monken, I will say again, one of the most underrated coaches in the country. Love what he does. Clemson Pitt, I know that conference gets a whole lot better. I agree, Alan. That's why Notre Dame shouldn't be scared to go to a conference they think is weak. Pittsburgh's got a really good base. Miami's getting better. Wake Forest has gotten better, and their coach is committed there a long time. Theoretically, again, they're as valuable as the paper that they're written on. BC, as I said, has gotten better. Clemson will definitely bounce back. I missed the extension. You're probably talking about Kiffin. I know Kiffin signed the extension. I think I said that. If I didn't, I apologize. I do know he signed an extension. But he definitely was interested in that Miami gig. And look at the extensions. That's the problem. Good point. Pay the money back. Or just hold them to their contract. Don't let them coach. Right? Don't pay him and don't let him coach. I got a contract with you. There's no other profession. An NFL coach, a Major League Baseball manager, can't just up and leave and go to another team without being released from that contract or buying himself out. I mean, it is the same process kind of in college, but you don't see it in the pros because this one is archaic. And it causes all kinds of problems. We got the transfer portal, which I don't love, and it's going to get worse because of all these coaches. Who do you believe? Who are you going to believe? And I got a little story to tell you about this transfer portal, by the way, before we leave. Who are you going to believe? What coach can you believe when he comes into your living room and tells your kid, I want you to come here for 4 years. I'm going to make you a better quarterback, a better defensive lineman, a better whatever. Who are you going to believe that he's going to be there 4 years? I don't care how long his contract is. I don't care if he signed an extension the day before he came in your living room. Exactly, Alan. We're going to be in college for a while here. Yes, they can. I don't know what that, Kenny, I don't know what that one's referring to. Sometimes these things get garbled. I've moved on and I don't know what we're talking about. Notre Dame likes that TV schedule, play those historic games. Well, the only real games, what games do they really need? They've had a great rivalry with Michigan every year. They don't play them anymore. I agree that the historic games that look at Bedlam's going away. Bedlam's going away. Nebraska, Oklahoma doesn't happen every year. Some great rivalries have gone away. And who's Notre Dame really need to play every year? They need to play with USC. They still can if they go to the ACC. They still could play Navy, which I think is a great rivalry. Navy's been on the bad end of it many times, but Navy's given Notre Dame a hard time many times in the last decade. Yeah, that'll happen. You guys buried the hatchet this weekend. That's good to know. I guarantee you we don't agree on everything. The problem is we reached this little impasse, or I shouldn't say crossroad, where we are agreeing on too many things. Don't you worry. It won't be kumbaya. When do we start talking about baseball? I guarantee you we'll have lots of differences there, just about the way the game's played. When you haven't been in, when haven't they been in to talk about a championship? Not me. Again, talk and getting there. They've been there twice. They only been there twice in the 8 years that they have it. Not bad, 25% of the time. But look at where Clemson and Alabama are. 7 out of 8. And it will get harder, by the way, Kenny, as these super conferences continue to get put together. I don't see that happening, but could. I think, I think he likes his coach. I think he fits that organization very well. Oh, Arkansas. So I misread that. Sorry, Carlos. I don't see that happen. I think Hartman's very, very entrenched at Wake. And I don't know that he can go. That's the problem with his transfer portal. You don't need a reason. I get the transfer portal if your coach ups and leaves you behind. No other reason. Kid from Baylor played great, right? When he completed his first 12 passes yesterday in his first, I think it's his first action. I know he's a freshman. Not sure how much he played this year. Who joined the Big East? They joined the Big East in basketball. They belong to the ACC in basketball, not in football, not in anything else. ACC should have held them to the gun to their head last year. Very good point. A lot of the schedule is ACC. They do have this, agreement with the ACC to play X amount of games a year. Well, when's that going to stop? When's that agreement end? Even Oklahoma made it in a less than stellar Big 12. Good point. So twice, and how many teams can say that? I get your point, Kenny. I do get your point. I just think going forward, Notre Dame's going to be in the position they were in this weekend more often than not. That's my only point. Has this been good for Notre Dame up until now? Absolutely. Absolutely, because they don't have to. Then, by the way, Kenny, why don't they want an 8-team playoff? Because they only have 2 chances to get in. Now they got 4. They'll go to a 12 because then they're going to have 6. Notre Dame only cares about themselves. Not that everybody doesn't. I agree. Not sure what that's 17. I'm going to need some context there. 2 years. All right. Let's move on. We're going to talk lots about college football. Certainly on Wednesday night with the college football show. So we'll definitely get into that, get into all of this more. You don't have to let it be. I get your argument. Notre Dame has certainly benefited over the years from this arrangement. And if it wasn't for the TV contract, they wouldn't be able to afford to do it. But people want to see Notre Dame play. Completed 17 straight. That's even better. I guess it was 12 in a row, maybe when I had seen it. So good stuff. Good stuff, guys. Good stuff. Let's move on. I want to talk a little bit of Major League Baseball very quickly, and then we're going to move on to the NFL. We probably won't get into anything else today. As you know, Major League Baseball started a lockout on December 2nd. There'll be no trading. There'll be no signing of free agents. Teams can still, sign managers and whatnot. What's that all mean? It depends how long this lasts. There was a flurry of free agent activity before the lockout. The Mets, gosh, who else signed? Let me see if I can find this quickly. The wrong mouse again. Let's see. I think I can get to the free agency tracker pretty quickly here. So you had Marcus Stroman signed with the Cubs. You had Max Scherzer obviously signed for $43 million with the Mets, and the Mets signed 3 other free agents. Dodgers bring back Taylor. Mark Melancon moves to the Diamondbacks. Rich Hill, big deal, joins the Red Sox. Nick Martinez with a big deal with the Padres. The Red Sox trade Hunter Renfroe and get back Jackie Bradley Jr. A lot of Red Sox fans not happy about that. Javier Baez signs with the Tigers. Paxton, who cares? Clint Frazier actually gets added to the Cubs. Big deal. Odor signs. There's some others. Adam Duvall did tender the contract by the Braves. The Rangers signed Corey Seager and Marcus Semien. Mariners signed Robbie Ray, the Cy Young Award winner Kirby Yates signs with the Braves. Alex Cobb. We talked about all the moves the Mets made. What's this all mean? The teams that didn't make moves, like the Yankees, are going to be in a very bad position when this lockout ends, which I don't think is going to be short. Because, as I said in the show Friday, and I've said on other shows, these lockouts and impasses, and they don't get to the negotiating table until time's running out. So they're not going to be negotiating here through the holidays. They're going to negotiate when they get close to pitchers and catchers reporting. And I think there's a 50-50 chance you're going to see spring training affected. Because this, to me, the main thing that this is all about is about arbitration and how many years before players get to it. Players want to make more money sooner in their career. The owners are countering with making everybody a free agent when they're 29 and a half years old. Players don't want that. Aaron Judge reaches free agency at 30. They don't want that. And I'm not making an argument one way or the other, because we were arguing billionaires arguing with millionaires. Fans don't care. I will tell you, if there's a work stoppage, Major League Baseball will probably never recover. If there's a cancellation of games in any way, shape, or form. And they won't negotiate until they have to. So the Yankees are in a huge bind because they've done nothing with their center field situation. They're going in with Aaron Hicks, who is the worst signing this side of Giancarlo Stanton. They're going to go in with Gary Sanchez as their catcher if they don't make. And again, they're going to have 2 weeks to make these moves if the thing settles early in February. Maybe a month. So if I'm a Yankee fan, I think it looks to me like they want to punt the season. The starting pitching is in disarray. There's lots of things that need to play out here, guys. And this is going to come down to, there's going to be a lot of talk about, the players want a 50-50 split of the revenue. It's not going to be about that at the end of the day. The thing that's really going to make this thing drag out is the arbitration and when players can become eligible to be free agents or go to arbitration. It's just frustrating. I hate these work stoppages. I mean, the owners, we don't have strikes for sure anymore because the owners lock players out before they can strike. How do I think it lasts? I think it's going to last months. I'll be shocked, as I said, Rick, if it doesn't go into spring training. There's going to be no, historically, these guys don't talk until they got a gun to their head. Time's running out on the clock, and then we find out we're not even close to a deal. They're not even close to a deal. Just think about all the things. Just think about all the issues they could not agree on with the COVID situation. Not going to be easy, guys. And you got teams that need to do a lot of work yet. I'm not a big fan of BS. I just don't like his. I don't know. Again, to my point about Carlos and I not agreeing on a lot of things, I do not like Javier Baez's game at all. I just don't think it's conducive to winning baseball. I don't. And his disrespect for the game and for the fans, I have no use for that. So, Carlos, if you want to put that on your list of things to talk about, you can certainly do that. I understand your frustration over the 20s. I don't have any frustration over 2017 Astros. And I agree. The Yankees have done nothing. Chapman should have been fired. Alan, you probably haven't been watching my shows long enough. I've bashed the Yankees for a long time. And I also have said the nonsense over the Astros and the cheating scandal is a lot of hooey in my mind. Everybody does these things. It will be long. Well, you know what, Carlos? There's always been money to be made. And don't say it can't happen, because I said in 1995 or 94, 95, can't remember. No way they cancel the World Series. They could never do it. Too much money involved, too much this, too much that. Well, guess what happened? And popularity was growing then too. It was never more popular. And they if it wasn't for Cal Ripken, baseball may never have recovered. Yeah, how many World Series do they have, Carlos? By the way, since 2000. So again, Rick, if you want to think Carlos and I are going to be kumbaya-ing it every Friday, how many World Series have they won since 2003? One. In nearly 20 years, one World Series. It's the New York Yankees. It's not the Kansas City Royals. You know, when you got the same number of World Series in 19 or 20 years as the Marlins, and everybody makes it. And don't forget, they expanded the playoffs, or they wouldn't be in all those years. Wild cards in baseball. Hello, Bill Pulver. How are you? Baseball doesn't have that face like the NBA and NFL do. Not anymore. Well, I agree. And they're their own worst enemy with the lack of hustle on the field, the way the game's played, the stupid rules they put into effect that hopefully a lot of them are going to go away now. Guys not, turning doubles into singles and triples into doubles. And nobody wants to watch people just walk, strike out, and hit home runs. Nobody wants to watch it. Yeah, that made it interesting until we found the creatine in Mark McGuire's locker. You did, Billy, by showing up. I'm just kidding. Not pissed. I just get passionate. You guys know me. Yeah, we'll jump into that because I'm done with baseball for the moment. By the way, and one thing we got to talk about, I know Carlos and I are going to disagree on this. And some of it's for reasons I won't get into, but we may have to talk about it on one of our shows, is the Mets got to hire a manager. Mets are talking about hiring, now they're talking about hiring Curtis Granderson, another three times in a row, a guy with no experience with a team that's built to win now. You got a $43 million starting pitcher, and you just went crazy with your checkbook on Black Friday. You can't hire an inexperienced manager. And I know the guy that they want that is experienced, and I know Carlos doesn't want him, which we won't get into today. And how much of that we do get into, it's not going to be Buck on the Mets, right? Well, I again, you and I talked about this one-on-one, Carlos, and I won't dive into all the stuff that we talked about, but I think Buck will be the guy. I really do. I just do. So again, how much of that, we get into is going to be whatever. But if it's not Buck, let's even forget about Buck. Find it, and it shouldn't be Brad Asmus either, by the way. How that guy's name continues to come up is beyond me. The Mets shouldn't be hiring a guy with no experience to manage this team. We've seen how that's worked out the last 4 years. And now you got a team that's ready to win. I don't know where Drew is. Drew would be good for this part of the show for sure. If you know Epler, you know that he won't go that route. Well, look at Epler was ready to go that route last year with the Angels. I'm sorry, inexperienced. I get you. Right. That's probably why he hired Brad Asmus in the first place, right? And he hired Joe Madden when it came down to Madden and Buck. So he shouldn't go that way. And hopefully it's just newspapers trying to sell thoughts on the Rangers. I think the Rangers, I think the Rangers are not a team that can wrap up that much money in that many years in 2 players. This reminds me a lot of the A-Rod signing. I just don't think they're going to have the money to fill the rest of the staff. So I don't think this is going to be a move that puts the Rangers over the top. 2 great players. But you don't win with 2 great players. So I think that's not. Again, that's why we play the games. But I think that's why I'm going to talk about this. I think with Mark, but let's get into the NFL picks real quick before Mark comes on here at 10:25. I want to get into last week's picks from you guys and myself. Recapping last week real quick on the NFL. Let me change my banner just so somebody pops in and wonders why I'm talking about football. Or did I? I did. All right, good. Prevagen. I did it 3 seconds ago, guys. How can I forget that I just changed the banner? You guys can make some comments while I'm recapping this stuff. So, week 12. Look who's on top at week 12 with 12 wins. TGI Sports Talk. Still way behind the leader, my boy Mark. Also with a good week, Mike Sazor with 10 wins. Still picking. Mike, you're in the race. I don't think you're in the race to win it all, but hope you're following the show. Ryan Lerman had 7. Mark had only 7. Ken Gifford with 6. Drew Ehrlich with 6. Robert with 6. Mickey Delaney with 6. Mark Robertshaw dropping like a rock. Mark Robertshaw, after being at the top for a long time, falling behind TGI Sports Talk. And Carlos with 6. Rick Sherlock, I think, has thrown in the towel. You can make a comment on that if you want, Rick. Right, we know Rick had 2 different teams going at one time, which kind of hurt his chances, but we'll try to make this easier next time around. Maybe we'll get off of ESPN and go to one or the other. They're all, all these free apps are tough. So for the year, Mark's still leading with 103, and Ryan is the closest, 10 behind. It's going to be very hard to make up 10 games in 6 weeks in this format. Very hard. And I am right behind Ryan. So we won't waste any more time on that. Let's get to the picks so we can get them out of the way before Mark comes in. Mark Mancini from Mancini Sports. Let's get to Keith's picks this week. And just a couple of comments on some of these games. So Thursday night, I was on the Cowboys -4.5. They won. The Saints are a mess, guys. They think they're going to win games with Taysom Hill as their quarterback. They are sadly mistaken. I am really surprised that Peyton went into the season with the quarterback situation that he had. Not a good move. I will take Tampa Bay and Tom Brady -10.5 on the road against the Falcons and Matty Ryan. The Falcons are just too beat up, too up and down. And as I say that, they'll probably beat the Tampa Bay because the Falcons are a team I cannot pick right, especially if I bet money on them, by the way. I just can't win. I get 2 games. I can only bet 2 games today, guys. So that's all I got left to bet. So I'll give you my picks as we go. So I like the Cardinals. I'm going to take the Cardinals minus the 7.5. It goes against my better judgment, especially with Murray still banged up. And also Hopkins still banged up. They're doing a remarkable job having the best record in football. They're tied for the best record in football with these injuries. Great coaching job by Cliff Kingsbury. The Cincinnati Bengals. Do not sleep on the Cincinnati Bengals. This team is playing well, and I think, as you saw if you watch my vlog Friday, don't sleep on the Bengals. They're going to win that AFC South, I think. So I like them today, and I don't think that'll be one of my bets. The Lions, I'm going to take the 7.5. Rick, I do not think they'll beat your Vikings, but I'm taking the Lions to keep it close. I don't think they're going to win a game. I like the resurging Miami Dolphins against the New York Giants without Daniel Jones today. Daniel Jones' season in jeopardy, and the Giants' season along with it, obviously. I do like the Jets getting 6.5 at home against the Eagles, who have been up and down, maybe a little better than I thought they'd be, but they're not good enough to be given 6.5 to anybody on the road. Jalen Hurts, by the way, may be out of this game as well. I'm going to take the Colts, although I don't think they're good enough to be laying 9.5 against the Texans or anybody on the road. But they're playing better football. They're 6-6. They're going to be in the playoff hunt. So we got to like their chances there. The team formerly known as the Redskins, who I like a lot, as many of you may know, and they're playing some really good football. Their defense is playing the way we thought it would early in the season. I said that Henneke would be the starting quarterback at some point this year, even if Ryan Fitzgerald hadn't gotten hurt. I'd said that before he got hurt. Is playing better football. But I think the Las Vegas Raiders will take care of business this week. I like the Rams. As bad as they're playing, I like the Rams. Against the Jaguars, it's just not feasible that they're going to even be in the game, I don't think. If they are, the Rams are in bigger trouble than I think. The Steelers. I'll take the 3.5 at home. I don't like the Steelers. Ben Roethlisberger's not going to be back with the team next year. Unlikely to play with anybody else either. We'll talk with Mark Mancini about that. And, I just 3.5 at home. I like home dogs. I got it's going to be hard for me to pick 2 games this week. This might be one of them. San Francisco at Seattle. Seattle's just awful. They're getting 3.5 at home. I may take Seattle in this game. I'm going to pick them. I may bet them. I don't know. The Chiefs getting minus 9.5 against the Broncos at home. Chiefs, time to wake up, guys. Time to start playing some good football. I don't know who my 2 bets are going to be. Oh, my gosh. I'm not laying I may lay the points there. I will tell you, I am taking 2.5 points and the Patriots Monday night against Buffalo. Patriots are playing better football than the Bills. The weather's going to be iffy. The wind is going to be tough to throw the football. Patriots can run the football. The Bills really can't. I think it's going to be a very physical, maybe a low-scoring game. And I think the Patriots will put some pressure on Josh Allen, take away Stephon Diggs, and I think it'll be the special teams that'll be the difference here. And a turnover, a big turnover, will end this game. And I think it'll probably be a very close game, and the Patriots will win on a last-second field goal. How's that for being specific, eh? All right. What kind of comments we got about that? Well, Carlos thinks Joe Espada might get that position. You talk about the Mets still. Again, unproven. I'll go back. I don't want to go backwards, but, I think that we'll talk more about baseball as we go forward. So That's good, Rick. I'm in for that. I love the any input there because again, I don't want to be a kumbaya. I don't want us fighting at each other's throats the entire show either. There's going to be things we just do agree on, but I think it's naturally it'll come to. There comes Mark. Ah, shoot. My phone wasn't ringing. Mark's coming in on the phone, it looks like. Let's get him in here. Should have rang in my head. I don't know why I didn't.
I'm sorry, the person you are trying to reach has a voicemail box that has not.
Well, Mark, if you're watching, call me back. I can't seem to reach him. We'll try him one more time. Anyway. Oh, let's see.
There he is.
Hey, Mark Mancini from Mancini Media and other parts unknown or known across the country. How are you today?
Well, I'm feeling pretty darn good, man. Things roll in threes, and man, oh man, I haven't felt this good since Thanksgiving when I rolled the Bears, Raiders, and then the Bills. All three of those, the Road Warriors. Then we get it into Michigan and Ohio State, and all I kept hearing on XM and all these other things was, keep your eyes, Iowa could take out Michigan. And boy, I'm going to settle a score Wednesday. I got the belt. It's back in Pittsburgh. It's sitting on the Roberto Clemente Bridge. The Panthers, the ACC champs, and Alabama whacking Georgia.
Well,
I don't know where to start.
I almost wasn't going to take your call today because I was 0 for 4 yesterday myself, and I don't have a picture to put up of you today. I forgot to put it up here, so you'll be without a picture. But anyway, Mark Mancini joins us from Mancini Media. Picked all the games right yesterday, I believe. I don't think you had a loser, did you?
I think I might have had Oklahoma State to beat Baylor.
Yeah, you might have had that. I know the games you posted on Facebook on Friday night. I was going away on every game. So,
I don't know where you want to start, but I will tell you this, and I got some friends in Atlanta and everything, and they kept telling me Georgia this, Georgia that. And I said, I haven't seen a Georgia team do anything since Buck Bellew, Herschel Walker, and Vince Dooley was, going down the sidelines. Georgia cannot beat Alabama.
Well, it sounds like, what the heck? It's Mark's. I called you back when you called, I can show you, and it went to, you don't have a voicemail set up on this number.
Right.
And Carlos posted, it sounds like I was calling an old girlfriend.
Carlos is still there. They're still trying to get their steaks from Philadelphia yet, man. And I'll tell you, we might have news that we might be picking up Monterey, California, 1240 KMBY.
Really? Wow.
Looks like, that we're working on that one.
Rick wants the shiny picture. I got to let's do this. Let's do this. You give me your take. Obviously, I'm going to set you up for you to talk for a few minutes. So there's obviously the controversy on the picks. The 4 picks for the playoff are gone. There is no more controversy to be had. Now the only thing that'll matter is how they're going to be ranked. I say they'll rank the team. I think if Michigan's 1, then I think Georgia will be 3. If Alabama's 1, I think Cincinnati will be 3 because I don't want that SEC matchup in the semis. What are your thoughts on that while I look for your picture for Rick?
Well, I told you before, and I'll stick with it, and I've been very consistent with it. Michigan, Alabama for the national championship. Georgia can come back and kind of, figure this thing out. Alabama lost their wide receiver, looks like, to a torn ACL.
But as was pointed out earlier, they have about 10 more. So.
Yeah, exactly. They seem to, they churn them out down there for some reason. And let me tell you, Bryce Young, I'm hoping Pickett can take the Heisman, but Young's looking really good too. So it's going to be interesting when that comes out. But let's face it, I think Bama goes number 1, Michigan, and then it'd be Georgia, and then I think Cincinnati. And I think Alabama whacks Cincinnati. They're going to show these guys that they don't even belong in the top 4. And then Georgia, Michigan should be a dandy. I think Michigan wins it. Harbaugh's on a mission, man.
See, that's where we go out. We go a little bit off the rails because I do think Cincinnati will compete I can't make your picture bigger than mine here. Let me do this again.
Well, the thing is, I look at Cincinnati like I looked at Notre Dame and Ohio State last year. I believe it was. They come into the thing and they get totally whacked out, and and I'm not sold on these teams, and we all know where the bar is. And the clown now, I call him, from Notre Dame, that couldn't win a national title there, but won all the football games, ends up going to LSU 2 years removed from a national title, Ed Orgeron, and now he's going to compete with Saban and Smart in the SEC. Let me tell you something. They'll give you the keys to the city at LSU, but you lose 3-4 games, all of a sudden the guy that looks like the caveman from Geico picks you up in a pickup truck, takes you to Alligator Alley. So Brian Kelly's got to watch out, man. You better start winning at LSU, or you're going to find yourself on the other side.
Well, Brian Kelly, good point. I mean, I had a take earlier that, it's not about the money. He could have made the money at Notre Dame. He went there because he doesn't feel that with the restrictions, the academic restrictions, even though that Notre Dame has lowered the bar for football players, he doesn't think he can win at Notre Dame, and he went where he thinks he can recruit better players. But what he's going to find out is he's playing in a league where everybody's competing for the same guys, and it's outside of his comfort zone. The guy's done all of his recruiting, most of his recruiting, and all of his coaching in the Midwest. And this is going to be
well. The other thing is too, what's with the Southern accent, man? You're a Massachusetts guy.
So he takes a job. So he takes a job, and the first thing he does is go in and make a speech with a Southern accent, like an idiot. Like, what is he doing? And then the very next thing he does is alienate the entire organization by firing a long-term strength coach, a guy who's been there for decades, and everybody loves, and he fires him his first day on the job.
Yeah, he's a clown. I've seen these guys, filter in and filter out real quick. Good luck with that. And Notre Dame, I don't know if they just went through the Wikipedia and picked out a Marcus Freeman, because I remember a guy pitched for the Atlanta Braves whose name was Marcus Freeman. I think they could have got better than that, but people are saying they hired within the organization. I'm saying to myself, a big school like that with a lot of tradition, you want a big name coach like USC. Like, I'm buying stock, and I don't buy a lot of stock in LA teams, and you know that, but I'm buying stock in Lincoln Riley. And people go, "Whoa, wait a minute, Mancini." I said, "Whoa, third best coach in Trojan history. John McKay, Pete Carroll, here comes Lincoln Riley." USC wanted him bad. They paid off 2 houses in Oklahoma, gave him a house, gave him a jet, 38 years old, got swagger. The dude's going to win 2 national titles out here.
Now you're selling out for LA. I can't believe that. But anyway, we'll let that go. We'll let that go for a second. Lincoln Riley, to me, and again, this move is no better for me than, and again, Alan brings it up. He says the same thing about Riley moving to USC for the same reasons that the other bozo, just forgot his name, Kelly, went to LSU, because he thinks he's got a better chance getting to a national championship than.
Well, wait, here, let me back up the cart. Oklahoma, and you bring in Texas into the SEC. He's looking and he's saying to himself, "Whoa, wait a minute." He's got a little more brains, I think, than Kelly does. The Pac-12 hasn't been relevant in a lot of years, so he's trying to put them on the map. And what a better place to do it than USC. So, there's not the competition he's got competing with the SEC. So I think if he, and he's a smart guy, because if you're going to go to a high-profile school like USC, you might as well get your houses all paid off, get pedicures and manicures for your wife on a daily basis, new cars, jets, whatever you need. And he's sticking it to USC, and I'm glad. It's kind of like the baseball players and the owners. If the baseball players can break the owners back in Major League Baseball, more power to them.
Yeah, and don't show any loyalty, and don't show any loyalty to the coach, Bob Stoops, and the organization that brought you along and kept you in the culture. They got a great culture at Oklahoma, and he was part of it, and that's why they made him the coach, was to continue that culture. And he just walks away at the first. Not the first opportunity, but with what he sees as a better path for himself. Don't tell me that he wants to restore the prominence of the Pac-12. He doesn't care anything about that. He cares about the money and the prestige that'll come if he can get USC to a national championship.
Well, and here's the other thing.
And he doesn't want any part of the SEC.
Well, here's the other thing. If you got a big name profile coach, and whether it's Nick Saban, Urban Meyer, any of these big name coaches, that if they're going to come and turn your franchise around, I don't think that anything's wrong by asking for the farm and then some. I mean, I've got ripped by backing the players up in Major League Baseball, saying the owners, are losing money and everything. Mike LaValle was on one of the shows, and he told me, he said, we asked these guys years ago to open up their books, and they didn't even want to open up their books. So if you're not opening up their books and showing the players that you're losing money in your city, how else are we supposed to believe these guys?
Well, how am I supposed to believe a coach that comes into my kid's my living room and tells my kid that I'll be there 4 years? Don't worry. When he might have already, it doesn't even matter if he signed the extension a day before. He can walk away the day after he signs his kid.
Okay, but then on the other flip side of that, Ed Orgeron, 2 years removed from a national title at LSU. Hey, listen, if LSU was in the thick of these things and in the top four, this wouldn't even be a thought of getting rid of Ed Orgeron. Loses a few games, and you see they're showing him the door. So I don't think there's any loyalty from the top more so than the bottom. But, if these coaches are going to ask for something, I'm for them,
I don't disagree, but you're comparing apples to oranges because, again, loyalty to adults who have an agreement, and if I don't do my job, I get fired, that's fine. But when you're telling a kid who's going to make a decision now with the transfer portal, he's not locked in, but you're telling a kid who's making a decision about his next 4 years and his education. And yes, some college football players do go for education. And then you can just walk away at any point, and then it creates more chaos because now the kids can have free movement as well.
Well, thank God for Ed O'Bannon, who opened the door for all these guys to start getting paid a little. The poor college kids, I always said, and people would tell me, well, do you know how much a Stanford education costs? I'm not, I don't really care about how much a Stanford education costs as much as the fact if I buy that kid a burger at McDonald's along with the fries and ketchup and the large Diet Coke, your whole program's going on probation, and that's not right.
Yeah, well, you know what? As far as the NIL goes, now I've come up with, I could not decide what I liked and didn't like about this. Now, this kid from Ohio State, who was the first one to get $1 million contract, hadn't even suited up or gone to the university yet, got $1 million NIL agreement. Now he's hit the transfer portal. Does he have to give that money back? What happens to that money? This is what.
Yeah, well, when I looked at it, Keith, I looked at it when Johnny Manziel put Texas A&M on the map. People were making money off his likeness, his shirts, and everything. He couldn't even make money off of his own name, and I don't think that's fair too. Because how can you not make money off your own name and somebody else is making it? And it's crazy to think these things. And now what we got is, I think the NCAA is going to go off the cliff here eventually. They got to get rid of that. Get 12 teams in this thing. Let's get this thing. My Pitt Panthers are sitting there 11-2, and we're talking about putting Ohio State in the top four. Are you kidding me? They lost 2 games too, and their quarterback can't even hang with Pickett and the Panthers. Yeah. Get a 12-man team group here going. Let's roll the dice like college basketball.
Well, I agree with that sentiment, entirely, because again, there's some good teams that I think they got the right 4 teams in there myself, but there's some good teams that could compete for a national championship that are not in there. So,
hey, I'm feeling pretty good, man. I mean, the Redskins, they're doing in the kitty. They're on a roll. They'll take Vegas out today, and then they get 5 within their division, 2 with the Cowboys, 2 with the Eagles, got the Giants again. Man, hail to the Hogs, man.
I want to switch gears a little bit. You being a Pittsburgh guy and all, and the news is out that Ben Roethlisberger will not be returning to the Steelers next year, and he's unlikely to play with another team, I would think. What's your thoughts on that news and I guess Ben Roethlisberger's legacy?
Well, Big Ben's a winner. You know that. He's been there, and I like him. The big thing is how they're going to, transition into this transition. I've been the only guy in Pittsburgh basically calling for Mike Tomlin's head, and maybe Mike Tomlin will step down as well. But A lot of the blame has been on Big Ben. No offensive line. They only got the running game. They say his passes have been off, but you know what? The guy you got to blame is Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin hasn't had this team prepared. What a disaster in Cincinnati. Now they get Baltimore today. This is ridiculous. Years ago, and people say, well, how can you blame Tomlin? Let's lay down the facts, and you can't argue with facts. I mean, when the Jaguars came in there a few years ago, beat them twice in the same season in a 10-year span, and then the next year, Big Ben goes down against Seattle. They only needed to win one game in their last four, I think. Tennessee takes them out for that playoff spot. And then last year, all the talk was the undefeated season. Washington came in there. Cleveland rolls in the last game of the year, and they're going, oh, no, don't worry about it. We got Cleveland at home in a playoff game. Cleveland blew them out in the first quarter in that playoff game. So Tomlin doesn't have this team prepared, mentally prepared or anything. Time for him to go. They will fire coaches in Pittsburgh, but I would.
Well, he may walk away, as you said, of his own volition, actually, but we'll see what happens there. One thing before we continue with the NFL, and I did neglect something I had written down to address last week real quickly. Rick posted a quick rest in peace to Claude Humphrey, a great defensive lineman with the Falcons for years. One of the great pass rushers, and I think they credit him with sacks after the fact, because sacks weren't counted as statistics for decades. But he was one of the great players and a class guy. And along with that, I forgot to mention last week the passing of another Hall of Famer in Curly Culp. So, much as in baseball the last couple of years, football is starting to lose some of their the more legendary names in the game, and it's sad to see. So we wish them and their families, God bless them and rest in peace, and we wish their families well. So I neglected Curly Culp, and Rick had posted this thing about Claude Humphrey, and I had it written down. I didn't want to miss it 2 weeks in a row, so I just wanted to.
Yeah, exactly, and it rightfully so. And I'm catching a lot of flack out here because the people out here are asking me, Mancini, you berate the Dodgers and you berate the Rams a lot. That's not right. I said, well, I'll get on your wagon if you get rid of Andrew Friedman and Sean McVay. I'll get on your wagon. Sean McVay, I will tell you this about Sean McVay. He's probably about a year removed from his job because they don't do anything this year. He's going to get a pass probably. He'll come back next year, and by next year he'll be gone, and he can do all these GQ magazines.
Well, it's funny you bring up coach security, because I wanted to play a little game with you today, because I got thinking as I was sitting here last night, thinking about what to talk about today, and I thought, we're going into week 13 of the NFL season, and there hasn't been a coach fired, and I don't remember when that's ever happened before. So I thought I'd go quickly, and we'll go quickly through these teams, and I want to talk about who is on a hot seat and who isn't. So we're going to go alphabetically here. So I'll throw a team out there and a coach, and we'll quickly talk about, again, we got to go through 30 teams, so we don't have a lot of time, but just quick take on each one of these. Arizona Cardinals and Cliff Kingsbury. No way he's in trouble. This guy might be the coach of the year.
Yeah, he wasn't in trouble up with this record he's got compiled, and he'll get a pass too. He's had some guys out with injuries and everything, but I think before this season, people were looking at questioning his coaching ability. But he's come out of the gate, and even with guys out of the lineup, they still held their own. And no, he's got a pass. He's definitely going to be back.
9-3 with barely having his quarterback or his best wide receiver for the last month. So Atlanta Falcons, the rookie coach Arthur Smith, I think he's done a better than expected job there. That team's up and down, and they've had a lot of injuries. For them to be 5-6, I think is remarkable.
Very surprising. I got the Falcons. I mean, I like this guy. He looks like an auto mechanic. Looks like he drives an old beat-up pickup truck, man. Give the guy another pass. I like this guy.
Yeah, Baltimore Ravens, John Harbaugh. John Harbaugh will coach the Baltimore Ravens as long as he wants to coach the Baltimore Ravens.
Man, I'll tell you, I look at the Ravens like I look at the Washington Capitals, man. Every year, if you don't put all the nails in the coffin, they seem to get out. The Ravens are dangerous. As long as Harbaugh's there, they're going to have a heartbeat, man.
Yeah. Sean McDermott with the Buffalo Bills. This is a name that will not come up on a lot of people's hot seat, but I think if this team does not turn it around, a la the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last year, you're going to start hearing some whispers about Sean McDermott's seat getting a little warmer.
I'll tell you one thing. There was a stat, and I think it's pretty relevant too. There's like 11 coaches from Pennsylvania, and I think McDermott's one of them. He gets a pass. I can't fire my own in my state.
You can. Matt Rule at Carolina. I really like this hire, and things have kind of not gone his way. He made a bad choice, obviously, in bringing in Darnold for the quarterback position. McCaffrey can't stay healthy, which it really isn't the coach's fault. I think he'll get another year unless he decides to head back to college on his own.
Yeah, the Carolina thing, man, when you start out like a bat out of hell, kind of remind me of UCLA football, then the wheels start to fall off. Yeah, he'll get a pass. He'll be back. They don't fire him after a year, especially when they give him the contract and everything. I think it'll be next year before they really look at his resume and what have you done lately for us.
Yeah, Matt Nagy, we don't need to spend much time talking about. He's
done, man. I said in June he was done. He's done. He's the first guy out.
Yeah, dead man walking. I'm surprised he didn't get fired a week ago like they thought he was going to do. Zach Taylor with the Cincinnati Bengals. He was in trouble a year ago because there was trouble in the locker room. But this guy, again, another guy who's probably in the consideration for coach of the year. This is a team not to sleep on. They're going to win that. I think they're going to win that AFC North before it's all.
Well, they got a couple of LSU guys there in Chase and Burrow, man. That's a key, man. And they hammered the Steelers twice in the same year. Yeah, he's got a pass too. They bought into his system there. I like him. Bengals are going to be awfully tough in the playoffs.
Agreed. Cleveland Browns and Kevin Stefanski. I think without, again, another playoff push here and maybe get back to where they were. If they don't make the playoffs, I think Stefanski could be get in trouble in Cleveland.
Well, they get rid of people in Cleveland left and right. And, it was surprising that, he got it passed. I mean, usually right after the season, even if they hire you in the beginning of the year, they get rid of you. But I don't know what's happening in Cleveland. I love Baker Mayfield. I don't know, the Odell Beckham thing screwed him up or whatever. But, boy, with a running attack, with, passing attack there, it's very surprising the Browns aren't doing something.
Agreed. The Cowboys and Mike McCarthy, who knows? With Jerry Jones, who knows if he's in trouble or not?
Another Pittsburgh guy, man. I like him, but you know what? Be careful because Sean Payton's either going, if he leaves New Orleans, he's taking Russell Wilson with him, and he could be going to the Giants or Payton. He's not going to get control, so he might want to go to the Giants because he ain't going to get the control from Jerry Jones at Dallas. So who knows? If Dallas falls on their face here or in the playoffs, you could be looking at McCarthy. Bye-bye.
Interesting. Broncos and Vic Fangio. I think Vic Fangio is probably the second guy fired after Nagy myself.
Yeah, I don't know. They haven't had a good quarterback there in quite a while. And the Broncos have been stumbling late. They beat the Chargers, so they're right in the thick of things here. It's going to be interesting who comes out of the West. But I don't know. I think he gets a pass.
Interesting. Dan Campbell, who was a first-year coach and was very highly thought of, even with his over-the-top introductory press conference. Can he survive this disaster of a season the Lions have had?
Yeah, this guy came out like an MMA promoter. He's going to break kneecaps and they're going to break cars. Everything sucks in Detroit. Now I'm going to get ripped here on the show. But, being 60 years old, still good looking. I haven't seen a quarterback in Detroit in 6 decades do anything. No, the Lions, everybody needs to wear bags over their heads watching Lion football until they get a great coach in there. They need a coach. Get somebody. God, they had the one guy from San Diego in the day that came over there. He was from Georgia. I liked him, Bobby Ross, but that's the last good coach they've had in quite a while.
Yeah, that's it's interesting too. You managed to get a compliment about yourself in that whole analysis. Well done. Green Bay and Matt LaFleur, who I thought would have been in trouble with his coaching decisions in the playoffs last year, but I think him getting the Packers, a fractured Packer team, with the best record in the NFC, I think he's done a great job this year, and he's definitely safe.
Yeah, going to be interesting, with the Aaron Rodgers thing. Boy, I don't know what happens at the NFL. One guy, says he got the vaccine. They don't suspend him. They suspend Antonio Brown. I don't know what. I'm not a big Packer guy. I don't really care what these guys do. But you're right. He'll get a pass. The Packers are hanging in there. How far they go is anybody's guess. I think it's all Tampa in the NFC and everybody else.
David Culley with the Texans, he's probably done a better job than we could have hoped for. I didn't think the Texans would win a game, but Culley might want to get fired, but I don't think he will. I think he'll get himself a second year there.
The bad thing about Houston is what they should have done was never get rid of the Oilers name. Texans really hasn't cut out down there. God, resurrect Bum Phillips, bring back Dan Pastorini, Earl Campbell. Let's get, Billy White Shoes Johnson there. Let's bring back the old Oilers. Get some tradition. Maybe the team will do something. This team's been in disarray with the whole Deshaun Watson thing.
Urban Meyer with the Jacksonville Jaguars. All reports are that Meyer has now a little bit more enamored with his job than he was, 6 weeks ago. And all things point that he will return to Jacksonville. How long term, I don't know, but I think he'll be back for a second year.
Oh, I like Urban Meyer, man. I like it. And be careful, man. Be careful, Rams. They got an offensive line, the Jaguars, and if they can run the ball down your throat, they got Miles Jack back there on defense. I like Trevor Lawrence. Be careful. The Jags could pull one. I'd take the points, man. Yeah. They could pull one at SoFi, and boy, I'll tell you, that would look like a mortuary if the Jags beat the Rams there at SoFi today.
Yeah. Andy Reid at Kansas City again. Another guy I think will coach the team as long as he wants to, Andy Reid.
Every time I think of Andy Reid, I think of Tommy's Burgers, man. He loves them out of here. I don't know. Maybe he doesn't like the barbecue food in Kansas City, but the Chiefs are there hanging. Yeah, he's safe there.
I did misspeak too. We did have a coach fired. I forgot about Gruden fired over the email that whole email thing. So
it's interesting, I'm trying to figure out, did he actually, with the whole Gruden thing, I don't know, man. He probably had a lot of names in the equation there, and it was easier to get rid of him. A lot of guys should have been fired on that thing, but Gruden took the fall for it, and the new coach is trying to find himself. I know he found himself on Thanksgiving beating the Cowboys, but he'll be on the other side of a loss today against Washington.
Chargers and Brandon Staley. I don't think Brandon Staley's got anything to worry about here. I think he's done a great job. I mean, this team is ready to, maybe they're not ready to make the next step right now, but this is a good football team with a solid foundation for the future. And I think Brandon Staley will be part of that.
Yeah, Herbert, Eckler. Staley there. They're trying to make a name. They're like the redheaded stepchild in this town behind the Rams, but they're trying to make noise. So I got to give it to the Chargers. Who knows how far they can go? There's been some games that you thought, well, they should have won, and there's been games that you thought they should have lost. But, it's really, really interesting.
Well, this brings us to your favorite coach, and Sean McVay and the Los Angeles Rams. I think he's safe. I'm going to guess you think anything short of a Super Bowl, he may be out of a job.
Well, they were all in last year when they brought in Jalen Ramsey. They're all in this year when they brought in Von Miller and Odell Beckham. I always say these teams that come in here and bring these high-priced superstars in and try to see if it's going to mesh. I have to remind the people in L.A. that didn't work when you brought Gary Payton and Karl Malone in to go along with Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal. But they said, well, we were injured. Doesn't matter if you're injured or not. You know what? You brought these guys in. They didn't give you the goose that laid the golden egg. And you see it with the Dodgers, with Scherzer and all these guys, high-priced guys. I'm not into all that. Yeah. Last time I checked, the Dodger fans sitting with me on the couch, pass the popcorn and the Diet Coke. We're watching the World Series.
Let's move on to the Dolphins and Brian Flores. I thought, early in the year, there were rumors Brian Flores was in trouble. They've righted the ship with some holes on that roster. I think Brian Flores is a credible NFL coach, and I think he will definitely be back next year.
Yeah, I don't know, man. The Dolphins haven't had a legend there since Don Shula. They haven't had a quarterback since Dan Marino. I think ever since they changed their helmet around with the Dolphin taking a suntan with copper tone, turned their whole franchise around. They haven't resurrected themselves. They get in the playoffs. I think they're 0-something when the temperature is below 30 degrees. So good luck with the Dolphins. The city's nice. Everything else is good down there, but crappy football team.
Well, we'll bring up, and I know we're going to bring up Mike Zimmer and the Vikings now. I think Zimmer's all done. Rick Sherlock, who is a big Vikings fan, says this is Zimmer's last season, no matter how they finish. And if they don't beat Detroit, it could be sooner. He may get fired tomorrow if he doesn't beat Detroit.
You know what? Same situation like Miami. Bud Grant was a legend. Fran Tarkenton was a hell of a quarterback. Chuck Foreman was running the ball. Sammy White was catching them. The Purple People Eaters. This team is far from that. They had Denny Green there that couldn't do anything. This guy's gone. I'm telling you, I feel bad for Rick. I love their helmet, man. Their uniforms are nice. I love the Vikings, but man, oh man, you got to get somebody in there. I will tell you one thing. Hang your hat on Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins is a winner. He was a winner in Washington. I liked him. And he's a winner in Minnesota.
What has Kirk Cousins ever won?
I would think well, let me tell you something. A lot of people think I'm crazy. And, I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, but I'm in the shed. But I'm taking Kirk Cousins over Matthew Stafford any day of the week.
Well, I think they're the same guy myself, so I don't want either one of them. Just saying. Let's move on. New England Patriots, Bill Belichick. I think he's in a lot of trouble. Could be fired as soon as today. Just kidding. He will not get fired.
Let me tell you something. This guy's Nick Saban. He's the bar. You take Belichick and what he's done. All these no names they got pretty much back there. He drafts Mac Jones, who I said is going to be a decade quarterback. If you put Belichick into the Rams, they'd be in the Super Bowl every year. 1 year removed from Tom Brady. Look what he's got. Second best record in the AFC. They'll beat the Bills tomorrow.
Let's move on to Sean Payton and the Saints again. I don't think Sean Payton's in any trouble unless he wants a different challenge somewhere else.
Well, if he keeps putting Taysom Hill in there, I might have to quarterback for the Saints.
He doesn't have any
that dude sucked.
And again, that's a black mark against Sean Payton that he went into this season with this quarterback situation as bad as it was. But with what he's done in his career, I mean, he can stay here, and if he doesn't, somebody else is going to scoop him up in a second.
Oh yeah, Giants, Cowboys, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and now we move on to the Giants. A lot of controversy. I think there's about a 50-50 split here in New York about Joe Judge. I say he should stay, and there's talk of one of the comments was that I think it might have been from Allen. I can't find it now, that whether Gettleman will go as well. I think Dave Gettleman will go, and that puts Joe Judge in danger because the new GM is going to want his own guy.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I can lay my head down at night knowing the big man drives my bus. I could put a costume on here during the day and do all these shows. But you got to give props where props is due. A guy opened up something for us this week in the media department of Mancini. I wanted to let everybody know it wasn't me that opened up that thing. It was him. And that goes a long way. What Joe Judge did with all his coaches after that loss in Tampa, threw him under the bus. Then he gets rid of Jason Garrett. You don't do that. You don't try to save face by throwing all your guys under the bus. Hang it behind closed doors like the Patriots used to do it. I'm not a big fan. His credibility was shot. Adversity took him the wrong way. So, yeah, if he loses his job, who cares?
All right, we got to move it along here because we're running out of time. Robert Saleh, not a great year with the Jets, but I think he's going to get a second chance. I think he's learning as he goes. A tough situation and a tough town, and I think he'll get another year. Same with Nick Sirianni in Philadelphia. I think they played a little above expectations, so I think he'll keep his job.
Great offensive line starting to come together. They love to run the ball down your throat. Jalen Hurts gaining confidence.
Yeah. Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh, we think he might be out.
Get rid of him, man. Let's get Frazier in there, the enemy, man.
I think he walks away on his own after this year. You think he'll get fired? Well, here comes Carlos's favorite coach, Kyle Shanahan with the 49ers. I know Carlos hates the system, hates everything that ever came out of the system, hates every coach that ever came out of this system. I think Kyle Shanahan is a pretty good football coach, and he's had some tough they went to the Super Bowl 2 years ago, and they've had to deal with some tough injuries in the last couple of years. I think he's a pretty good football coach. What are your thoughts?
Well, they're realizing Garoppolo is better suited to play football for the 49ers than serve me a lasagna dinner in an upscale San Francisco restaurant. Yeah. One. Number two, They've also figured out they can beat the hell out of the Rams 5 straight on them. They're starting to put it together. They started the season, I think, 2-0. Wheels fell off a little. They're right in the thick of things with that win over the Vikings last week.
Excellent. Pete Carroll. I think Pete Carroll, look, he's the oldest coach in the NFL, believe it or not. He doesn't act like it, but he's the oldest coach in the NFL. I'm almost positive of that number. Again, I don't see him leaving unless he wants another challenge somewhere else or he decides to retire.
I love Pete Carroll, but you know what? Don't start looking older, man. 10 years older. Get some Grecian Formula 16. Put in the hair. Do something, man. You're in Seattle. You're in the Northwest. They got a new hockey team there. Come on, look the part. Don't look like an old guy that just came off a retirement house.
Bruce Arians, Tampa Bay. He's a guy who could leave at any time. He's had health issues. They win another Super Bowl. He could very well walk away. In fact, he could walk away either way, in my mind. I think it's a coin flip, but it'll be his choice.
Well, Tampa Bay is going through Tom Brady. Tom Brady calls the shots there. I know Bruce Arians has tried to call the shots, but, he's got to stick with Tom Brady on this because if he doesn't, he might be working the dock there where the boats come in Tampa.
Mike Vrabel. I think Mike Vrabel's safe. I think Mike Vrabel's not a
I like this guy. I really do. He's a New England type of guy, man.
Yeah.
Burly guy. Looks like a sumo wrestler, but I like this guy a lot. He'll be safe.
And Ron Rivera with the Washington team, formerly known as the Redskins, I think he's safe. This team is starting to come along, and they may be a playoff team before this is all over. They're playing much better.
Yep, they're buying into the system. They lose Chase Young for the year. Keep your eyes on the Redskins, man. They will start it today. Keep it within 2 games. They get the Cowboys next week. Beat them. If they roll the table, they're in no matter what, because even if they're tied with the Cowboys, they will win it by beating the Cowboys twice in the same year. I like the Skins. They got the running game going, man. Watch out, man.
All right, very quickly. We got to move quickly because I'm over time, and I got to jump on to Dan Harris' show. So give me your locks today.
I got the Redskins over the Raiders. I think that's a lock, and I think Pittsburgh will beat the Ravens. They need to come out and beat the Ravens.
All right. I will give you the lock of the Buccaneers beating the Falcons on the road. And I say a lock will be the the Vikings will definitely beat the Lions on the road for sure, as I agree. Give me a surprise. Give me a surprise.
Don't be surprised if the Patriots beat the Bills tomorrow and the Jaguars beat the Rams today.
Oh, you're just that's a hater pick. My surprise will be Patriots beating the Buffalo tomorrow night as well. And my second one will be the Jets beat the Eagles for the 3rd win this year. So
wow, can't wait to talk Wednesday, brother.
All right. Listen, thanks for coming in. I got to wrap it up, and I will see you on Wednesday night. Thanks for coming in, Mark.
Best show that's sweeping the country every Sunday, The Grind. I love you.
All right. Have a great Sunday.
You too.
Bye-bye. Guys, I got to wrap it up because we got to move on. I know we had some comments we didn't get to. Great participation again today. Carlos, Rick, Alan, Kenny, Billy Pulver. You were a little quiet once you got here. Anybody I forgot, I apologize. Sal, you were here. Thanks for coming in. Alan, I think I mentioned Alan, but guys, thanks for coming in. Join us Wednesday for the college football huddle. Mark will be with me. We'll have Larry Sorensen on to talk about the debacle with Wake Forest. And Friday, don't forget, Are You Serious? With myself and the Mad New Yorker, Carlos Chavez. And things are going to start to heat up, I'm afraid, the way things are going here. Keep thinking out. See you guys later. Bye-bye.